You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis. Only on 101.3 Jams.
We can't go any further, y'all. Like, we would be remiss if we don't address, the top headlines that's affecting our community, just us as a people, as a human race, right, on how we interact, but then also the hip hop community, y'all. And I think, Just Do, the first conversation really is to be about that Derek Chauvin trial and, how y'all feel about it, because we all know that while, for those that don't know, he was found guilty on all 3 counts, right? And I want to get y'all opinion on that, because I had somebody say that it's 3 different counts. So how could he be guilty on all 3 counts? Were they just trying to send a message? Was that necessary? What have you? But while George Floyd's case, family, and situation, has received justice, we got so much further to go. Like, we can't take our hand off the plow, eye off the prize because we get one win. There's other cases happening right now that's up and coming. So maybe this set the new precedents. But Max, what you think? What was your feeling as a black mother? What was your feeling when that decision came out?
I realized that my response to this situation may not be very popular, and I try not to be pessimistic. And I guess just try to, in my opinion, really try to be realistic with situations. And for this, while I was happy that Derek Chauvin was found guilty, and that someone would be punished for their wrongdoing. It didn't feel like a real victory to me. Nor did it feel like justice had really been served. And I guess only because of the, it doesn't take away racism. It doesn't take away, it doesn't cure equity. It doesn't fix, all of the other issues that this world deals with right now as a result of racism.
Right.
And so it's just one of those things like, yeah, okay, we got one, but there's still so much more work to do.
Facts.
I almost can't even pause to kind of be happy in the moment. It's just, it felt a little bit like blah, and I don't mean to say it like that. But just so much more to be done. Just so much more. But I'm glad someone who did wrong will answer for their wrongdoing.
I feel you on that one. I'll leave it up to y'all who want to chime in next, because as I look at, the folks who we have here with us today, family, it's different angles y'all can approach this from. But Aaron, I see you off mute. So what's your feelings right now, brother?
I'm gonna start it off with the words of the immortal Tupac Shakur, and he says, "We might fight amongst each other, but I promise you this: we'll burn this B down if you get us pissed."
Facts.
And I think that this whole trial and him getting off was a symbol of the people in charge knew that there was going to be some stuff that was going to pop off if this guy got off. Because I'll be very, very honest, I thought he was going to get off the whole time. I thought the defenses, I thought that the defense, I watched things from a very, number one, was he guilty? 125%. But I also thought the defense was piss poor. Even some of their arguments, Max. No cap, and I'm just like, this is just something is not adding up. But I was happy in a manner about the fact that one of their laws that they put in charge actually backfired on them. And one of the laws was that for the second degree murder, he didn't have to intend to kill him. He just had to. The prosecution just had to show that the assault that happened to Mr. Floyd resulted in murder. So those are one of those laws that they have a gray area on, to where it always works against us, and finally the system backfired. But Max, I'm with you. I wasn't happy about anything. I'm like, listen, this is just one black person, and then guess what we saw in the next couple of days? More black men, more black women being shot. And so until the whole system is gone, I'm not cheering. I'm not clapping. I'm not twerking for none of this nonsense. We need to burn down the whole system.
Yeah, I hope you ain't twerking at all.
I said I am not twerking. I said I am not twerking. Because I saw, I'm being real. Because I saw people in Minnesota twerking. And I'm like, man, what are we happy about? This is a systematic issue, like Max said. And until the whole system is done, the fact that we as a society, and I'd like to get Giles' point of view, the fact that we as a society have actually gotten so low to the point to where we are happy that someone that did something wrong got punished for it is an indictment on the whole existence of humanity. That's how low we are as humans.
Well, this world has a moral issue, bottom line.
Absolutely, Max. 100%.
Yeah, and when I talk to people I'm sorry, I was going to chime in on that, Max. I was saying when I talk to people who, want to talk about what now appears to be conspiracy theories. Aaron talked about the defense, right? There were a lot of things about George Floyd personally and about how they say media, the liberal media, quote unquote, like sort of contrived a lot of the story. But if those things were true that people were throwing shade at him about, wouldn't the defense have brought that up? Yeah. And if they didn't, then you're right, Aaron, like that is a piss poor defense.
Yeah, it was just the whole trial was just it was just weird, man. It just, like I said, I just think it was a response to where it's like, listen, you saw what we just did, like 1968. We're gonna burn this whole thing down. Do y'all want to go through another 6 months of this foolishness? And they had I just call it a white sacrifice, man. That's what I think it was. That's what I think.
What you think, Giles? I mean, like how this whole situation plays out, how it plays into our future, and how you felt when the verdict came down.
Yeah, I mean, I think I felt what a lot of people felt in terms of watching was just relief that that the verdict went that way and that it wasn't that the world wasn't going to blow up again and stay hot like that. But at the same time, I think that's just like fatigue at some level. And so there was this sigh, and I frankly I agree with you, Aaron. I was surprised by the verdict, and then when I step back and look at it, I kind of felt the same way. I don't know if I would have used the word white sacrifice, but it all felt like everyone was going together on this one, including Chauvin, frankly, that there was some agreement about something, how he was going to be treated or something. Because that's a dude who's a dead man walking in a prison, in any prison system. Yeah, for some without that, and I felt that there was this acquiescence to it system wide, and I kind of a little bit of a dumb show in Minnesota. It was a very Minnesota thing, and I'm not sure we all got that from outside. From the way their attorney general rolled out the decision. There's
what does
two
that
things
mean,
that I think
it's a very Minnesota thing.
Minnesota is a lot like Charlottesville, Max. It's one of the best places. Minneapolis is one of the best places to be a white person in the world. And it's still a terrible place to be non-white.
Yep.
And it's a town that's separated by the river and by the railroad tracks in the same way, and a town that has militarized its police force to keep the hood in the hood. And the cops there think that they were following orders. I bet that to do that kind of stuff, and Chauvin thought he was teaching younger cops a lesson. This is how you do it. You cannot come in like that, Hmong boys, and look at this and play patty cake, Right. And so when I look at the precedents, there's a couple things. One is I have a lot of compassion for police officers and the role they play in society because they're the ones getting all the blame for putting the boot heel on the throat, right? But the momentum, the system, the green light, the acquiescence, it's all over, right? It's at every single level, and including the nice leafy white suburbs with the Victorian city neighborhoods with the Victorian houses, right? Like, keep them MS down at Cup Foods, And so that's I think that's all the way across. That's here. That's what everyone feels. That's what Max is talking about. Like the steps. Now, procedurally and from a precedent perspective, there was a couple of things I thought were important. One, you can convict an on-duty police officer of murder. Okay. That's a good thing. That changes the way departments, look at this stuff.
Yes,
and
it
training.
does.
Hopefully.
And the decisions people make en route to swearing in as a police officer.
Mm-hmm.
And y'all might disagree, like with whether that's how real that change is going to be, and maybe that's what needs to be worked out over the next 6 months. Second was the sitting president's response, in the sense that his team had him, or he called the issue out that way. That this was a murder that took place on camera over 12 minutes, and it still took a trial to get to this place, and none of us were sure. He sort of, in a way, said what you said, Aaron, and what you said, Max, that it means we're a poisonous society.
Absolutely. 100%.
Right? And if you have a sitting president say that out in front, it's the first time that's really happened in a way.
Yeah. And Giles, like that's part of the conversation that I've had with people, and I want to get Razor's input on this, on his feelings about it, and going forward too, is that people talking about I'm like right to a fair, just trial, and like the media and even the president not swaying the jurors shouldn't be scared and all that kind of stuff. But like we've been saying, like we've built a beast, Razor. Like there's a corrupt system that's never worked in our favor, and then when it works in our favor, then the powers that be want to talk about but we got to do it right. like you should have been doing it right, and that's why we have the problem, because you hadn't been doing it right. Like what you think, man?
But it's all right. Like as normal, this is just my point of view. The system, for what it was created, is doing right. You know what I'm saying? Because when the police force really grew, it was after slavery, after after slaves got free, so they could go out and catch them. So then you have people who bring in people that can help the mission going forward, right? So if you're bringing in those people, just because you put some policies in place doesn't change the heart of the people that you have in those situations.
Truth.
And what I'm fearful is going to happen is that the police department, the people in the police department that have malice thoughts amongst people that don't generally look white, are going to band together and say, okay, the system isn't going to protect us anymore. Like, we talking about one cop getting really prosecuted, just one. And they will literally band together. I've seen, just read Facebook. Just look how they talk about situations. Like, think about all the support that they have to where when they see a situation, they say, oh, he didn't comply. But when we talked about wearing masks, people lost their mind. Well, you taking my rights, so the mindset hasn't changed. The system isn't flawed. It's doing what it was created to do.
That's right. Correct.
Right? It just does not work for people that look like you and I.
That's right.
Now, to Giles's point, I too, unfortunately, even though I've been the victim of police brutality, all types of stuff, right? When I was doing wrong and when I wasn't doing wrong. You know what I'm saying? I've had it on both ends. I still sympathize with what the police have to do, because just like an African American, when they come onto a scene, they're already viewed before they even open their mouth because of the way that they look, the prejudice that they have. Like, let's be honest. I know that's not something I should say as a black man, but that's the truth. It is what it is, right? So what we have to be fearful of is the police department taking it amongst themselves to protect themselves. And at that point, they are no longer doing their job to protect and serve.
Yeah, the part like that plucks at my heartstrings, I know we've all had this conversation before, is it feeds off of what you just said, is me as a black father of black boys, teaching them a way that's going to maximize their potential to return home.
Run.
You
Do
follow
like
what I'm
we
saying?
did. Run, like run to get away. Like,
right, but you realize that people say, no, it doesn't matter how much we comply. It doesn't matter. They still gonna kill us if they want to kill us, right?
That's what I'm telling you.
Right,
run.
Right. Like, but while I get that, I still, to me, my opinion is, as parents of black children, regardless of what they have out for us, we should be teaching our kids how to conduct themselves in a way that's going to at least increase their chance of surviving that altercation.
Let me tell you something. Let me say this real quick, Aaron. When I was when I was at my not so nicest person, it didn't matter what you were going to do if we marked you. You understand what I'm saying? Like you were preventing the inevitable. You were adding time to it. You were adding to your own stress level. It didn't matter. So when you have somebody that inherently does not like somebody for whatever reason it is on something that you cannot change, there really is nothing that you can do.
Yeah, I feel you.
Yeah, I think it's insanity. I think it's insanity to say that we live in this system of racism, but not tell our children and not give our kids the best options, regardless of, because remember that, and really what I'm saying, if you think about it, is that's the definition of you being dominated, because your choice doesn't matter, which is what Razor is saying. It doesn't matter if you do A, it doesn't matter if you do B. This can still be the outcome. But telling kids, listen, he is the person that's in authority. I know people do not like to use the example of you being in a prison system, but you can yell as much as you want. The warden controls the prison. That's a fact. That's not up for debate. The warden controls the prison. And when the warden decides that you're going to get beat, so we have to continue to do our stuff so we can just destroy the entire system. Because this stuff is just going to keep on. Listen, we saw this. We haven't talked about it, but listen, we saw a brother in Virginia on the beach crying as a military officer, being assaulted. And he's defending this country. To me, as black men, that's what, look at what you're seeing. It doesn't matter.
But that's always been the case.
I did hear that there was an app that, our kids could put on the phone where if they got pulled over by a police officer, they could, activate this app. It sends a message to the parents, let them know that they've been pulled over and what their location is. And it's just insanity to me that we even have to do something like that to help protect our children. But, going back to Razor's previous comments and Aaron's, I come back to the question, it's like, what is real victory for our people? Like, Giles' comment. Giles was talking about the precedents that this conviction sets, makes you question force. It makes you, now the world knows that police can be convicted of something, and then Razor's comment about the fact that now that they know they can be convicted, they will protect themselves. So it's like victories aren't victories for us. It just makes life harder for us.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that we should stop the fight, I mean, it's our, this day and age, it's our time. We got to pick up the mantle like people before us. But it's just like victories aren't victories. They just make us suffer more.
Max, ignorance is bliss sometimes, because think about the sum of hate here in Charlottesville. Before you knew that your neighbor didn't like you or your children, you could kind of coexist with them next door to you. Once that happened, and then they went back into the shadows, now most black people walk around on guard. Now you have the people that were doing that were not police officers, or we don't know what their profession was. And now we know that the police officers have to protect themselves, right? Because they got pensions, they got kids in college, they got housing, they have different situations. Because if you have a cop that, I know this isn't going to come out right, but screw it.
Reform or destroy and rebuild?
Destroy or rebuild, in my opinion.
We can't do either at this point. We don't have the power. We have a police chief in charge here in Charlottesville that's still, in my opinion, and I love it to life, at the mercy of the people that work underneath of her. But you don't see that when the police chief doesn't look like her. That's leadership. That's what they call. When's the last time y'all heard, the police department can talk about her in the fact of calling her a leader, their leader? Yeah. Men have a hard time accepting a woman anyway, and a black face on top of that.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? So a lot of times we're put in position, even though that we have the best of intentions of being a token.
Yeah.
Now that you're talking about, let's say for instance Chauvin goes to prison and somebody does take his life, or they say he takes his own life. You mean to tell me they're not going to protect themselves to not have to go through that situation? The lady that shot Botham John is putting her stuff back up to get her charges lessened. How do you do that? How do you even fix your mind to come back before something like that? A black person would never even think about something like that.
Good point, man. Man, thank y'all for that.